right? So, and this isn't to say that some men do domestic work. It's to say that more women are still doing all the domestic tasks and work on top of doing work outside of the home, right? I mean, if you're a mom, you know you're the default parent. Most women are the default parent, right?
Right.
Like what's the joke? Your kids will, go to you and be like, "Mom, where's my toothbrush? Mom, where's this? Mom, where did you? I can't find this. I can't find that. Dad, where's mom?"
I know, right?
And it's so true.
Yeah.
I live that, right? You live that. It's hilarious, but it's so true. Welcome to the Womanhood Lectures, where we talk about issues that matter to you, the modern day woman. I'm Yasmin.
And I'm Lyra. Please like, subscribe, and share. We are available on YouTube, Rumble, as well as Spotify. Today, we have a bit of an opinion piece. So we're going to share a topic about women and how sometimes we come in and the things that we deal with, we are in an angry state with the state of the world today.
Yeah.
So why are women so angry?
Why are women so angry? Why are they so pissed off at everybody? Because they're just not lifting a finger and putting their socks away.
Right.
No. I do think that it's pretty interesting. You're right. When you brought this up, I was like, are modern day women really angry all the time? Are we angrier? I know we kind of make fun of people sometimes where we're like, what's her problem kind of thing, right? They're very, we have a name for her and we don't want to name people. But, sometimes we say like, you're XYZ. Like if you're really, really meticulous and angry and in your face and whatever. I think that modern day women right now are overwhelmed.
Okay.
And so that overwhelm, maybe the frustration, a lot of other things are going on that are then leading to anger. Right? Because anger is actually a defensive mechanism that's that your psyche creates to protect you.
Right.
So if you're sad, if you're feeling vulnerable, if you're afraid of something, anger is one of those things that comes to the forefront to protect you. And so this is why we will lash out at people when we're upset. We're not necessarily angry to begin with. We're more feeling something underneath the anger.
Got it.
So I think that's just kind of a premise from a psychological perspective of why people show anger, right? That's not your true feeling. It's usually something else. Yeah.
Right. So, well, the topic came up because when we were chatting, I was telling you about a woman that I know who had told me about her relationship and how she does not date men. She dates women and she has a partner at home and she's lovely. And basically, she just doesn't feel that men can meet her. It was one of those things where it was almost like she was trying to give an excuse to say being interested in women as a woman was not just a phase. It was something that she understood, meaning she loves this woman and she couldn't see herself with a man because men are just too difficult to deal with.
Oh, okay.
Too difficult, too much drama, too many issues. She prefers to be with a woman because a woman understands her more and understands her position and understands her life. And I thought to myself, does that make a lot of sense? Do you know? Because as women, we understand each other.
Yeah.
And I find our relationships with men, they are very difficult.
They can be.
And they can be.
Yeah.
And women are getting a little bit more angry. And a lot of it has to do with taking on certain roles and playing certain roles that we feel should be more of a man role.
Okay.
And then on that note, I thought about it. It was like, also, I think where she was coming in or interjecting was saying, we just, with different personalities, not to say that she could not have conflict with her female partner, but with her male partners, or if she had ever had previous male partners, there would be a lack of something would be missing. So is that communication possibly?
Maybe.
Like between women, we communicate more or maybe communicate the same language. It could be something physical in nature, like maybe just receiving that level of intimacy that you would expect from your partner. What else could it be? I'm trying to think.
Well, I mean, women connect with each other differently than women and men connect with each other, right? So I guess it makes sense what she was saying, that women just, was she kind of coming from the perspective of women just get me? Like, it's just so much easier.
Yes.
Because she's a woman herself. So she understands what I'm going through day to day. It's just so much easier to connect with her. It's this whole idea of, you know, similar experiences and similar ways that you're experiencing life. And so that can make it easier, for sure. Okay. For sure. But I do think that I think feminism actually plays into this as well.
Okay.
I think, like, I always read about, you know, when I read about angry women, it's always kind of related to these angry feminists. And I'm not knocking feminism. I'm just saying, why is that a thing? Why is that associated more with feminism? Right. And I think part of it is because the history of feminism was really based on this idea of fighting for our rights, fighting for equality, this whole fight mentality of, I need to get something. I need to gain respect, and the only way to do that is to show up and be angry and fight for what you want.
So it's that domestic inequality, like I had mentioned, where there's an inequality in the workplace. There's inequality in the home and in relationships, right? Mm-hmm. But there is a difference between men and women. Mm-hmm. We are different people. We are different species, really. So there would be conflict. But how do we... I don't know how to explain it. Like, how do we show up differently, in the sense of, here we are, we're a little bit taken aback by everything that's happening. And you can see it. It's all over YouTube. It's all over TikTok. Like, there's the masculine versus feminine discussion, right? Constantly being had about whether or not men are doing this and women are submissive and, you know, playing their roles, or men playing their roles. How do we discuss this particular scenario where women are just a little bit angry? They're inundated. They're tired.
They're probably tired and overwhelmed and frustrated because they've now, all the things that we wanted, that we asked for, was, you know, being able to work outside of the home, being able to do a lot of things that men traditionally had the opportunity to do. We wanted the same opportunity.
Right.
And unfortunately, now that we are working outside of the home, on the domestic side, we haven't necessarily given up being the default person at home.
For sure.
Right? So, and this isn't to say that some men do domestic work. It's to say that more women are still doing all the domestic tasks and work on top of doing work outside of the home. Right? I mean, if you're a mom, you know you're the default parent. Most women are the default parent, right?
Right.
Like, what's the joke? Your kids will, you know, go to you and be like, Mom, where's my toothbrush? Mom, where's this? Mom, where did you... I can't find this. I can't find that. Dad, where's mom?
I know, right?
And it's so true. Yeah. I live that, right? You live that. It's hilarious, but it's so true. And so, you know, as being the default person at home, it tends to fall on your shoulders as a woman. If you're a wife and a mother, you know this. You tend to do more of your fair share of household duties, household planning, family planning. Moms tend to be the one who know when's the next competition, when's the birthday party, how much are we spending on this gift, where do you need to go, who are your friends parents. Moms keep track of that mostly. A lot of dads don't. And it's not to say that some do, that's fine. But the majority of moms, all that responsibility falls on you.
Right.
And you're still working your 9 to 5, or you're still running your business, or you're still doing your thing outside of the home. And so I think that now that we've gotten all of these opportunities, we've not had the chance to give up some of our previous responsibilities. We don't relinquish those. So now we're doing double duty.
Right? I feel like I do a lot.
Yeah.
You know, and somebody had written in the comments once, well, why don't you just hire somebody? You know, it's not so simple to say I'm going to hire somebody to parent my children, right? Like, I'm not going to hire, you can hire somebody to clean your house for sure. But I mean, there's just so much that you do as a mom, and a lot that you take on. But let's just say I'm a single woman, you know what I mean? And I'm looking for to settle down or to have a relationship with a man. How do you feel men are showing up these days? Like, do you feel like men are masculine enough?
I guess it depends on the man. You know, society really hasn't supported strong, healthy masculine in a while. We've been kind of like in this
focused on women.
Yeah,
right?
very focused on women. Amazing. And in the process, we've also sort of emasculated men to a certain degree, right?
Okay.
And so it's funny. My kid was saying something the other day. She's like, "Oh yeah, he's in his soft guy era," and I was like,
"What's a soft
guy era? What do you mean?" And she was like, "You know, guys, there's guys out there who want to be taken care of. They want you as the girl to take them out and pay for the bill and do all this stuff." I was like, "Oh, that's a thing. Okay, interesting."
Wow.
I know.
Okay.
I was like, "What do you think of that?" She's like, "No." She's like, "I wouldn't do that. I just wouldn't date a guy like that." So, I mean, you know, it's just really, really interesting that there's all these little sort of, you know, factions and things that are popping up in society. But again, back to the question of, you know, are modern day women really angry? Maybe we are. But I think that it's stemming from this overwhelm, this frustration, and now this difficult balancing act that we have.
Balancing life, balancing finances, balancing, you know, our needs as well. Like we've become a society that's so, you know, quick, instant gratification on everything, from our phones to our, you know, I can't even get my husband off the phone. Like, he's always watching something, right? It's like we're always wanting to be entertained.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, for sure.
And to take our minds off of it and actually look at, like, you know, here's a man and a woman coming together, and how can a man show up, and how can a woman show up, and how can we do better as individual species, right? The other thing that was mentioned was, you know, because we had a couple of shows on trad wife. We talked about the traditional wife. Yeah. We talked about feminism too. We talked about, you know, how can we show up better for our husbands. We talked about how men should show up to some degree, right? Yeah. To some degree, I don't think we've really ventured into that topic, but you know, how do we become less like angry? Like in general, because I think that I'm meeting a lot of women who are just, you know, and actually just the other day I was speaking to a couple of girlfriends who are in the dating world in their 40s, and they're like,
"I'm done.
Just forget it. You know, I'm leaving this country." Like, they're like, where am I going to find somebody? Yeah. Finding somebody and even dating has become so hard. And, you know, it's become like a swipe left culture.
Oh, totally. You know? Totally. Yeah. So, well, our whole lives have become a swipe left culture and instantaneous. And like, you know, how soon can this thing come from Amazon? Right. Amazon now, right? 2 hours. Like, 24 hours is still too long, right? There's all kinds of craziness in society. But yeah, I mean, so when you speak to clients recently, what are you noticing about where women are at in terms of being angry or being in their like overwhelm or frustrated, or what are they saying to you?
To be honest with you, I kind of watched relationships. There's a lot of difficulty. Okay. To even in clients that I know who are very religious or have like this idea, like, I'm the wife, I'm going to be the server or the subservient wife. Okay. There's still conflict. There's still conflict in how the man shows up, right? Okay. And whether or not the man is actually fully, you know, being or playing his role. So I just see a lot of confusion. You know, if it was like really just straightforward, this is what you do as a woman, and this is what you do as a man, I think it would be like so much easier on everybody. Do you know what I mean? But there's a lot of conflict. Okay. And then there's obviously personality conflicts, and then obviously, you know, the ways that a one woman would like to be versus how another woman would like to be. You know what I
Right.
mean? I know that you and I are very different
Yeah,
on how
yeah.
we navigate our marriages. But yeah, I think there's a lot of contrast. There's a lot of differences that we
Yeah.
have as
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. Well, I
Does it
mean,
make sense?
yeah, absolutely. And female rage is a real thing. I mean, that's more of a, again, I've seen that mostly associated with the feminist movement, with more radical feminist movement, where, it's like we need to get angry so people pay attention. I need to, right? And
Right.
it's in music, it's in
But it's high
a lot of things.
expectations, right?
Yes.
Like I expect a man to clean, cook, tend to the
Yeah.
kids,
Be an equal
pay
partner.
the bills.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I do, right?
Yeah.
Like we want the intimacy to be perfect.
Yeah.
We want him to be emotional.
So is it managing our expectations? Maybe that's
I think
part of
that's
it.
pretty much the bottom line.
Yeah.
I think it's managing our expectations as women and managing our expectations as men. Like, we are in this world right now dealing with all this inundation of things. And it's been a slightly crazy.
Yeah.
But to take it down a notch and say, okay, and return back to that wholesomeness of what does it really take to build a foundation. So
yeah.
that's a question for you. What do you think it is to build a foundation?
Well, I think, I mean, I've mentioned this before, that sort of mutual respect and that communication and that ability to actually tell the person what your needs are, and be really willing to also help meet their needs. Right. When people have, and this is in any relationship, when you really have the intention for the other person's highest benefit, for the other person's well-being, the relationships are so much better. If you both feel that way, like I'm here to help you feel your best, be your best, and feel loved and supported, and and if I knew that you were also doing the same thing for me, and we have that intention, it's this beautiful like reciprocation of I'm going to do this for you, and I'm going to be there for you in ways that you can understand, and similarly, right? That definitely takes down the heat level, right? And even when things happen, you're so much more better equipped to deal with it, right? Rather than flying off the handle. I think when people are over not balanced in terms of their life, and all of us are sort of unhinged to a certain degree at certain points, right? But if you're constantly in this sort of unhinged state where you're, say like work pressures, relationship pressures, kids, like you're trying to do all this stuff, and if you're trying to do everything at a super high level and you're not giving yourself any space to just relax or be, or you're trying to juggle like 6 plates when really your capacity is only good for 3 or 4, like let go of the other 2.
Right.
You're setting yourself up for kind of for failure. You're setting yourself up to be really disappointed with yourself, and then you'll also be disappointed with everyone else around you, right? Because you're expecting your partner to come in and carry those 2 plates for you, and then they don't. So, I mean, right there's a problem, right? And the same thing it goes both ways. I'm not saying that as women, we need to just lower our expectations and just not do anything.
Right.
What I'm saying is you need to maybe communicate your expectations better, and then decide with your partner if that's reasonable for both of you.
So women having expectations of men, right? And then maybe being like, didn't meet my expectations, right? Like, what is it that they're missing? What from guys? Like, what is it that you think this girl that has now a girlfriend is missing from a man? Because she did mention that there was.
So did she date?
She just said it's a lot easier. It was the way she said it. It was a lot easier to deal with.
I mean, who knows in her specific
situation,
case, but I mean, it could be so many things. It could be, I want someone to show up and sort of be an equal partner at home, for example.
Right.
And they're not. Or I want someone to show up and be more romantic, or I want someone to show up and be, we've talked about masculine men what is it that we look for in a masculine man? And we look for consistency and someone who is, very more self-aware and self-disciplined and able to,
Right.
To kind of pick up the slack for us when we can't.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And who's a good complement for us. So if you're someone who does a lot at home and your man isn't really great at that, or it's not the first thing that he thinks about, then talk about either divvying up your tasks or hiring someone.
Right.
Let him pay for someone to come in and do the things that he's not going to be doing for you. Maybe, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it's this, if you're a more traditional woman, then you might want your man to show up a certain way. Like how would you just put yourself in that position of like, what would you want your husband to do? Do you want him to do the dishes, or do you want him to hire a housekeeper once a week to kind of clean the house for you? You're getting the same things done, for example,
Mm-hmm.
right? Is one way going to prove to you something different than another? Maybe that's something to think about. Like, how do you want to get things done? Does it really matter to you if he's is it proving to you if he's showing up every day and doing the dishes? Is that something that you need to know that he's making that effort? And does it have to be dishes, or can it be something else?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I mentioned it in another show where
Yeah.
I said when I think of my daughters and what they'd look for in a man, and it kind of like went through my mind as I was talking to this girl, is that, I want my girls to go home to somebody who's helpful, period.
Okay.
Like helpful. Like
Yeah.
there's, life is hard. Working is hard, commuting is hard. Doing the day-to-day, trying to, there's a lot of pressure right now in society to like make more money and to have like alternative ways or sources, because it's getting pretty crazy.
Yeah.
There,
And
right?
really expensive. Yeah, for sure.
Very expensive.
Yeah.
So having somebody who's just helpful, that's
Okay.
pretty much it, like bottom line.
Okay.
And I think that's what the experience is of, I've around my girlfriends, and I'm around, women, and I find that we are more helpful. We're aware of that. We're aware. We have something inside of us that's aware of what another person's needs would be.
Yeah. Well, I mean, women in general tend to be a little bit more emotionally in tuned anyways.
Yes.
We just have a more natural tendency, and we're socialized
Yes.
to be more aware of that from
Yes.
from the time that
Very
we're
young
babies.
age.
Absolutely. We're praised for it. Whereas men are praised more for their action.
Yes.
And
being
their
strong
and their
being,
individuality.
Right.
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 So not to say that that's a good or a bad thing. That's just how it's been. And that's how we are socialized. And so, and men have that natural tendency as well to be individual, to be strong, to be, physically, to be focused on other things. I think women tend to be more communal. So yeah, I mean, I think knowing that, maybe that's helpful for women to understand that, we are kind of socialized differently. We tend to communicate, and we're more cooperative than men tend to be.
Okay.
Right? Doesn't give anyone an excuse. You
Right.
ask your partner. I know you're like, I still want my husband to be.
I know. I think we want, like, again, it's those high expectations, right?
Yeah.
But we're angry because the world's changed so much, and it's not necessarily a good thing.
change.
Well,
Yeah.
no, there's this girl who went viral on TikTok, and she talked about just whoever made the decision in early 1900s that we should go to work,
Just punch her in the face.
Punch her, yeah.
Yeah.
Who
Oh, I
is
saw
she?
that one. That was
You
funny.
did?
That's
Yeah.
funny. She was so hilarious.
But it's, it has.
And
it's
sometimes
changed.
that's the thing that we're thinking in the back of my mind, like, who decided that I should be doing this as well as
Right?
doing that? Yeah, I know. Sometimes you
It's a
really
lot.
think about that.
So we do wear a lot of hats.
Yeah.
And when we wear a lot of hats, and then we're looking at our men, or we're looking at men out there, and maybe they work 9 to 5, and then that's it. They get to tune everything out, and then there's just not a lot of hats being worn. So I
Okay.
can see where the anger comes from. Yeah.
So I guess we should be teaching people how to wear multiple hats.
Yeah. Well, if we have to wear multiple hats as women, I think it's important to have that discussion to say, hey, you know, we need help.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot, especially because we are doing something that's just, you know, it's not, you know, you to be a subservient wife or to have all these traditional roles and then be
also a boss babe.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. So
I kind of see this movement now a little bit away from hustle culture and that boss babe culture into a little bit hopefully softer, more feminine way of being for women. So maybe some of this might be alleviated in the next few years, decade, whatever. It takes time for things to kind of permeate through society. And we're still trying to figure it out right now. We like I've said before, the pendulum has swung so far in one direction. We're now trying to get back to the middle of the road. And what does that look like?
Right.
In the process, it's very frustrating.
It is.
It is.
It
like,
is, to
you
say the
know,
least.
it's a lot. It is quite a bit. Because I think for the most part, women still take on most of the domestic roles. And it just has not shifted all that much to a lot of men.
Yeah, it has.
But maybe we need to be teaching our sons how to do all that stuff.
Right.
We need to be teaching our little boys how to do that so that when they get into partnerships and relationships later, that they can have more of a balance of, yes, you can show up as a strong man and do your thing. And you should know how to do the dishes. You should know how to
cook a meal
and put on some laundry and all that kind of stuff.
I think it's important. I think it's important to share the balance, like to share with your partner and to figure out a way to make it work.
Yeah. All right.
100%.
I love it.
I'm not angry. I swear I'm not. I'm not.
That's okay. That's okay. Even if you are.
I'm not. I see that there's a lot of frustration with women. So, and I see it out there and it's hard because the roles are tough. Right.
Yeah. I do feel it. But you know what? We all need to try to navigate the best that we can. And we're here for you ladies. This is why we do the show, so that we can say the things that are in the back of my mind and your mind. Like, who thought of this idea 50, 60, 70 years ago? Yeah. You should have let us stay home. I'm kidding. Anyways, thanks for joining us again today, guys. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And we will be bringing you more topics on our next show.